Understanding God's Ways, produced by Pastor Chris Lovell. Have you ever asked the question, God, what are you doing? Why did this happen? Where are you in all of this? If you have, you're not alone. We've all been there. When life feels uncertain, painful, or confusing, we long for answers. But instead, God invites us to trust. Not because everything makes sense, but because He does. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Isaiah 55, 8-9. This passage reminds us of a hard but freeing truth. God doesn't think like we do. He doesn't act like we expect. His ways are higher, wiser, and infinitely loving. Consider the story of Joseph in the book of Genesis, sold by his brothers, wrongfully imprisoned, forgotten in a dungeon. For over a decade, Joseph's life was full of injustice and confusion. And yet, behind the scenes, God was orchestrating something far bigger. Later, Joseph would say to his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Genesis 50:20. You see, God's ways aren't just mysterious, they're purposeful, even when we can't see it, even when it feels like everything is falling apart. Even Jesus experienced this tension. When his friend Lazarus died, Jesus didn't rush to prevent the death. He waited. He allowed grief to unfold. And when he arrived, he wept. Not because he lacked power, but because he shared our pain. Then he spoke the words, "Lazarus, come out," and life returned. Jesus didn't always explain, but he always revealed the heart of God. In Jesus, we see the clearest picture of God's ways. He touched the untouchable. He forgave the undeserving. He calmed storms with a word and chose silence before his accusers. The cross, the ultimate mystery. Why would God allow his Son to die? The disciples didn't understand. The crowds mocked. Even Jesus cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And yet, 3 days later, the tomb was empty. What looked like defeat was actually victory. What felt like the end was only the beginning. This is God's way. Maybe today you're walking through something that makes no sense. A diagnosis, a broken relationship, a door that slammed shut. Maybe you're tempted to believe God has forgotten you. But hear this: trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Proverbs 3:5-6. We don't have to understand everything to trust a God who does. God's ways are not our ways. They're higher, deeper, wiser, kinder, more redemptive than we could ever imagine. And most of all, his ways are always rooted in love. God is love, 1 John 4:8. He who did not spare his own Son, how will he not also graciously give us all things? Romans 8:32. If he gave us Jesus, we can trust him with everything else. You may not see the full picture right now, but one day you will. And until then, walk by faith, trust his heart, and know that behind the mystery of his ways is the unshakable truth of his love. His ways are higher. His heart is love. Trust him.